Total loss. What to do if your home was burnt down entirely. So, first of all, sorry for what you're dealing with. That can be a pretty horrific experience to go through. But I'm grateful that you were able to get out alive. Hopefully you, your family, your pets, your loved ones all got out safely. At the end of the day, a home is really important, but it is a possession compared to our life and our health. It is just a thing. And now that you're in this situation, I will tell you everything that I've experienced in watching several hundred homes get rebuilt after wildfires. So, payouts and rebuilding. When your home is burnt entirely, and I'll tell you, there's only one thing worse than having your home burnt entirely, is being next door neighbors to someone whose home is burnt entirely. The last thing you want is to be the last home left on the block, where your structure's destroyed, your home is destroyed, and 3 years later, the rest of your street has brand new homes, and you have this toxic dump that is basically unsellable. Those are the people who I've actually seen, now I'm several years removed from big fires, be in the worst shape, have the worst health impacts, be stuck with their home. So I had another video above about should you move? If your home is standing, but you were adjacent to homes that were lost, fight like hell to get your home rebuilt as well. So payouts and rebuilding. And this is going to be pretty short. This whole course was really for people who are dealing with smoke damage and don't know what to do about it. The rebuild process is a lot more straightforward. There are insurance companies know this process well. Home builders know this process well. There's a few little nuanced items that I'll share with you. So payouts and rebuilding is a tough one because sometimes the right move for people, imagine you lived in a neighborhood that had big, beautiful trees, and it's going to be a horrible, long process of years of permitting and construction, etc. And you're not attached to the area. Sometimes the best bet is you take a payout and you sell the lot, or you wait and then you sell the lot. Also, sometimes you want to take a payout and then you rebuild your home a little bit later. You hire your own contractor. You're not in the mad dash game of everybody scrambling to get things done as quickly as possible. Also, when everybody's building their homes, that can often move the ground a lot, and it can actually compromise the structural integrity of your home. So that's something to think about. Most people are going to rebuild. They love where they live. And I'll get into some of the details later. Upgrades versus kickbacks. So it's very bad taste, bad faith, to be asking a builder for kickbacks. Sometimes in insurance claims, insurance companies will actually pay out way more than it costs to build a home, because it's kind of all over the place, especially with an older home that was lost. You're not being, usually a good policy has something called replacement value coverage, usually. So, and if you don't, for anyone out there, this is so important with your insurance policy. In Canada, it's called the GRC. They call it something else here, but you want a policy that has replacement value. So if the cost of building materials goes 5x over the next 10 years and labor goes way up, your policy covers you for anything that it costs to rebuild the home. Whereas if you have a fixed limit, as materials and labor goes up or market demand is high, you may not have enough money to rebuild your home. That's a tough spot to be in. So replacement value often doesn't, I know with my policy, I actually have a much lower dollar value than my house, but then I have a replacement value guarantee. So sometimes that's a good way to work insurance policies. Builders, kickbacks, no bueno. Don't even go there. They won't go there. It's not nice. But upgrades is something that they definitely do, because sometimes the way insurance companies pay makes no sense. They might pay too little for vanities and bathroom stuff, but they might pay 3 times too much for a foundation. I'm just making up those examples. Same thing with a restoration claim. Often they'll pay more to clean up after a flood, which is a 2-3 day process, pump out the water, clean the structure, maybe a week, dry out the structure. More to do that than to rebuild the whole basement. And as someone who's restored hundreds and hundreds of homes, that makes no sense. The cost to do the initial tear out and cleaning is a fraction of the price of remodeling, but the way insurance pays out makes no sense. So sometimes you just have to work with the builder and know that they're just going to get an overall sum of money, and then how that money is used is for you to figure out with the builder, which is another reason why you want to hire your own builder, not use someone that the insurance company chooses for you, a builder that you really trust. And sometimes it actually makes sense. Like, let's say you're in LA, it might make sense to call builders from San Antonio, call builders from Ojai, call a builder from Sacramento. Sometimes, especially if there's a few people who all need to build homes, a builder who's in the same state, so they're all licensed and everything, wasn't thinking about coming to your city because it's a few hours away, but for a few homes on a big project, they're willing to. And that way you find builders who aren't being swamped by thousands of calls. So sometimes you actually want to contact builders who weren't planning on coming to town. And if you have a few neighbors, and builders get fantastic economies of scale when they can build several homes in a short vicinity, a short drive, or even better is a walk. Next door neighbors is even better because now they can have one site super manage two properties. They can have one delivery, and they're going to have a huge amount of savings, which means they're not going to give you kickbacks, but they can give you upgrades. So maybe you had vinyl flooring before, you get hardwood. Maybe you had a basic kitchen, you get a really high-end kitchen. Negotiating for upgrades is definitely a really good thing to do. And most homes, I'll get way more into this later, but most modern homes were built horribly. They were built, they're these cost-effective structures that were airtight boxes that all the pollution comes inside and stays trapped. All of the indoor chemicals and toxins stays inside. They have, LED lighting. They have toxic VOCs and bad materials. They have a lot of materials that are conducive to mold growth. So like I said, bad lighting, bad air quality, bad water filtration. Most builders, architects, developers, etc., the last thing they consider with your home is your HVAC system, which is your furnace, your air conditioning, your ventilation. HVAC means heating, ventilation, air conditioning. They just bang in the tin for your furnace last. It's an afterthought. But your HVAC is the lungs of your home. It's one of the most important parts of your home. And seldom does the builder sit around and say, how do we make a home that's optimal for the people who live in it? Most people, you want to get your kids off the screen. You want to get off the screen. Get off the phone, honey. Get off the iPad, kids. And then you have a living room where it's two couches facing a wall with a giant TV. A TV is just a giant iPad or a giant cell phone. So there's an amazing opportunity to build your home intentionally in a way that serves you and your family, that would be conducive to how you spend time. Better outdoor spaces, screened in porches, air quality systems built into your HVAC, good ventilation, whole home water filtration system, diffused lighting, in-floor heating. There's so many cool things that you can do when you're building a home that barely cost money. They just require thoughtfulness. So this comes into smokeproof homes and silver lining, and I'll do a whole other video about home upgrades, but it's an opportunity to build your home in a way that really serves you. So take that as the silver lining here. You don't have to build back your home the exact way it was before. Think about, was your bedroom, did you need the massive bedroom? Was it too big? Was it too small? Were your ceilings 20 foot high unnecessarily? Were they only 7 feet, 8 foot, and you would have liked 12-foot ceilings? How does your range hood vent out your kitchen? Is it venting out good? How is your home breathing? Which way does the sun come in? What's your morning routine? Do you want to put a sauna in? It's a really cool time to think about building your home in the healthiest way possible. Choosing a builder, I kind of spoke of a bit about that. Just, find someone you trust, get a few quotes, meet them, find people whose homes they've built a few years ago that love it. Go and visit. It's like one of the biggest decisions you'll ever make. Go and visit. If they don't have clients who are excited to show off their home that builder built for them, don't touch them. Usually when you build a custom home, you're very excited to show it off. So go check their work. But also consider hiring an inspector or even an architect. Also, an architect and a builder independently can be a nice tandem. So if you find an architect and then your own builder, they can kind of balance each other out versus two that are working together, because they can kind of look at each other's work. Contents. Huge opportunity. I've seen people get checks for $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 when their home burned down. Sometimes even when they didn't burn down. Also, if your home wasn't lost, or think about this in the future, it really pays to do a annual walkthrough of your home, an annual video, photos. For example, like, also sentimental value is usually valued. So if you lost your great grandmother's couch, that's not worthless, it's priceless. And sentimental things have really high value. If you lost old photographs, sentimental value, not every policy, but typically, yeah, those things have value too. You can't replace them. There needs to be a compensation for that loss. But like everything, right? Like you make basically a spreadsheet with everything you bought. You'll do your best to find receipts and everything, but sometimes you just have to find a total loss template. But like, I'm talking everything, every plate, every dish, every DVD, every CD. DVDs aren't worthless anymore. You might be able to get the $40 for each DVD that you bought 20 years ago. CDs, your furniture, your electronics, your bedding, the bed frame, your baby stuff that was sitting in storage, every piece of clothes you have, you know? I had 46 shirts, $80 each. You know, things like that. Like, there's $4,300. You had 15 pairs of jeans, $200 each. There's $3,000. You will be amazed at how that spreadsheet builds up. And they might push back on some of the stuff. No one has receipts for everything. If you have to guess the numbers, guess high, because they're going to push you down. But in a total loss, like, think about everything. Every plant, the planter that the plant went in. You know, you might have had an old computer and an old iPod and a few iPhones. You know, your iPhone 14, your iPhone 12, well, you had 4 cell phones. So literally, the list should be, often my contents list of people's homes was 2,000 line items. And don't just say like kitchen stuff, $2,000. Be like pans, $800, $100 each, you know? Glass, Pyrex stuff. Think about everything. Everything. You might as well, the insurance is going to be fighting you and pushing you down. So put everything you can think of there. It makes a lot of difference. And it can be a huge, you know, these are horrible events, but the financial gain, it can be a horrible loss financially, but sometimes it can actually work out pretty good too, whether it's a total loss or not. But like, think about every single content. Smokeproof homes. I'll go to that one after, because that might be its own video. We'll see. But the silver lining here is, you know, the sentimental stuff is the hardest stuff to lose, for sure. It's the hardest stuff to lose. The stuff that can't be replaced, that money can't replace. The old, you know, nostalgia from childhood. I will say I actually created a nostalgia box a couple years ago where I took all my old elementary school and high school and baby stuff, and I laid them all out and I took photos of them all, and I created a nostalgia photo album, and I threw out 90% of them, and I just have one tote of my special stuff. But I have the photos, and honestly the photos do a really good job of like reminding me about my 2-year-old drawing I gave my mom. The photo is a big part of it. So documenting the special things is important. I keep all my documents in fireproof bags that I got off Amazon. You can have a fire and water resistant safe. So in the future, be mindful of fires and floods and how to protect your most sensitive documents. So yeah, the other part of the silver lining is some people who didn't lose their home are going to have completely contaminated homes for a long time. The insurance may not respond to. There's no arguing a burnt home, and you have a chance to build a home that is completely dialed in for you and your family. Like I said, the lighting, the water, the air, hardwiring stuff to have less EMF. It's a wonderful opportunity that you get to go through, and it's worth the headache. It's worth the stress of making the decisions to make your future home perfect. But think outside the box. It doesn't just have to be this like living room that faces at a TV. You can get really creative. Think about what you love, your morning routine, your evening routine, what your kids do after school, outdoor spaces, screened in porches, all that stuff. You can build a home now that really is optimized for your health and the way you live your life. Smokeproof home. I'll touch on it a bit here. Air quality, smoke, air, everything. It comes into your house through the attics, the vents, the cracks, the all of it. Your homes are leaky. I'll get there in a sec. But when you're rebuilding a home, you can actually rebuild it. They're not popular. They're almost impossible to find in America. Jaspr's next product that we're coming out with, which we're going to try to get going in the next 6 months. We've been working on it for 4 years. It's just about ready. But basically, it's a fresh air intake system and an ERV that has an air quality sensor on board. So what that means is when you have a fresh air intake, the air in your home won't come through every window, every door, every vent, every attic, every crack. It'll come through the intake. Air will follow the path of least resistance. And then you can so we're building an ERV with a significant HEPA filter on it. And also, if it's detecting poor air quality from outside, it will shut the damper and stop bringing it in and increase the indoor air filtration. But if there's fresh air outside, it will actually bring in more fresh air. And now also all of the air as it's coming in your house gets filtered. So whether that's allergy, pollution, pollen, smoke, your home is actually going to be able to filter the air on the way in. So you can build a smoke-proof, allergy-proof home. And we're going to be launching a product that will be very helpful for that will measure the air quality. It doesn't replace the need of portable air purifiers in your bedrooms in your main area, but this ensures that the air is entering your home has a really good layer of air filtration. So the two ways your home gets polluted is outdoor air comes in, gets trapped inside, and then all the VOCs, the chemicals, the cooking, the pets, the mold from inside. So you need a system that brings in fresh air, filters it on the intake, and then a recycling system. So you use a portable system in tandem with your fresh air, ERV, HEPA system to basically have a smoke-proof, allergy-proof home. And I think nowadays that is the only way to build a home, especially in California. On to the next one.